For the morning start of an IPG Scan Marker, first ensure that all emergency stops are released for proper operation. In this case, we have to reset the safety relay. And at this point, we'll start to turn on the modules. We give it some time. Ensure that the key is in the on position, and once it warms up, you'll depress the green start button and the hardware is ready to go. And we will begin the startup of the software. When not ready, press the green button. Seat start, and give it some time and it will settle in and be ready to shoot. Next we move to the IPG Mark software. And we're going to reconnect as was last time. And once the software has been launched, we'll be able to pick up earlier projects. So to do that, we open the manager. In this case, I'm just going to open an example program, which is an OD tube and a circumferential. So we open it, and you'll see in here the font runs across the equator on said tube. And some of the interesting things we have here, we grab these tools in the top right. We can easily click that and drop them in here. So the equator is a text tool. So if we click on text, we'll see here the font is equator. And it's important to realize here's your height of the font. The width is typically 100%. We can change the location of the font. We could even open or close the nudge window by clicking the cross arrows, and if we click plus Y or minus Y, you'll see it moves. We could also manually make the changes. I'll deselect the nudge tool and hit the ellipsis. I could hit the arrows up and down and select the increment. It's also important to note that we can implement a fill by hitting true. If it were false, it disappears. So false would be gone. Now the equator is hollow. We'll go back over here and we'll go to true, and we can go down and program our fill. So we hit false to true for fill. Now it says 45 degrees. The pitch is 0.04 millimeters per line. So if we zoom in, we can actually see that. That's the distance in between the block lettering. I like to go bi-directional fill directions, so the laser can keep marking in both directions, and we could fill edge to edge, which is from the edge of the block letter to the other edge of the block letter. And there are many choices. There's also unidirectional. And we can change the laser power. First we have the velocity. The faster we go, technically the less exposed the material is to the marking process. That's in standard units, in this case millimeters per second. And the laser power, it's a 50-watt laser, so 10 is really 20% full power. In this case, we're keeping the shutter open 100% of the time as the pulse width is 0, so we're effectively disabling these features. However, if we change the pulse width to 0.0005, which is a half a millisecond, the pulse frequency is how frequently the shutter is open. So in this case, that would be a 50% duty cycle. And that is how you control the shutter for the laser. but we'll disable that for now. And that's how we generally do a text. And if you want to sample it, if we first toggle the guide, we will be able to see the laser guide beam, which is a red dot where the laser will fall. And if we select start processing, you will see we have choices. We could turn a guide back on, and we could trace the part. As you see here, it's running through the part, which will take a while. Actually, this will take a long time, so I'm going to abort the effort. It takes a few moments for the laser to be communicated with. And if we disable the guide and run again, we'll actually shoot the laser. And that is a quick way on how to do fonts and text. A line, we found from trial and error, we like to use a wobble feature. Right now it is on. So in this case we're looking at the line. Let me zoom out. And it's this red line here. We can hide the coordinate system. Now I have a red dot. It's interesting, if you turn the wobble off by saying false, you'll just get an exact line, the thickness of the laser. So it's now off. But if we turn it back on with true, now we can change the wobble, pick the type of wobble. There's many types. Circle, we find line is the most effective, so there's no crossovers. Infinity is interesting, but you just keep reprinting an infinity symbol, and there is a lot of crossovers in the center. So we could pick line. And this is the frequency by which the wobble will go back and forth as it traverses the line at the given programmed rate. And this is the amplitude of line, how far it deviates from extreme to extreme. So this will be plus or minus 0.4 millimeters from the actual line. This is the length of the line, 20 millimeters, also an important variable. And that's about it. I should mention you can change velocity. The gimbal is capable up to 1,000 millimeters a second. So you could put 1,000 in if you're using the gimbal. But I find 25 is a good rate when you're using our rotary, because it can't move as fast as a gimbal. Thank you. That is IPG Scan software set up for marking. So as you see here, the selected text is red and the line is also red in font. So with that, we can click and toggle the guide, and you'll see the dot is above the laser. If I click it again, it turns off. So for example, we can run the part with the guide on. So we will select guide without shooting the laser. Now we're going to hit start, and we can watch the part start moving. Now we see it moving. So I'm not going to record this whole event, but that is the idea. Next I will shoot the laser. So last, before we turn on the laser, we'd like to turn on a vacuum, so we don't have to breathe any of the material. And of course, most important is we select a pair of safety glasses. In this case, an IR laser, so it's in the range. This is a 1038. At this point, we're ready to turn on the laser. We shall disable the guide, and this will take a while. We're running a little slow for marking, but we shall run it, and we'll watch a little bit of sparks. It's actually writing equator. It'll come back, fill it. Next, before you launch IPG Scan Marker software, if we're using external hardware, which we are in this case, we are doing circumferential rotation about a tube, we need to make sure the hardware is interfaced properly. So we can quickly take a look at the stage configuration software. While the laser has already been turned on and running, we can lock the communications channel by clicking lock, and it'll grab a communications line with the laser. There we have it. And we can, I happen to prefer to use counts, select rotary, and we can see here, very important is we have the maximum velocity in place, or the scanner, which typically goes faster, will potentially slip the motor or go up in loop. So we make sure these are programmed. But again, this has been saved. But as a reminder, in advanced settings, we can check the rotary. You'll see here maximum velocity, frequency, and of course acceleration parameters are in place, and we would hit save changes. If we change these, they turn red in font. We need to make sure they turn black, because the laser will communicate with the software that the data has been saved, and it will be blacked, and then you click save to put on the hard drive. But that is all we have to do. I will now unlock the communications channel to release it for the standard software. And now it says unlocked on the bottom here, so we can minimize or even entirely close this software.